This Balfour Declaration, that was the precedent for all that followed, was celebrated in the Darbyite and British Israelite congregations in England and America. But the joy had little to do with the Jewish people, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, they didn't even believe they were the Jewish people, but imposters, as they tell you today. Mud people, as they called them. Indeed, many of these celebrants were anti-Semites who would soon join the revived Ku Klux Klan. The issue was the final fulfillment of the biblical prophecy, and then the end of the world, these people say. And I tell you, that's not going to happen either, because that's not what Jesus Christ said. Is it? He didn't say there was going to be an end of the world. Neither does the original Bible. And every Bible that says it's going to be the end of the world is a mistranslation. The original word in the Greek and the Hebrew means age. It will be the end of the age. Both British Israelism and Darby's prophetic apocalypticism were surprisingly welcome in America. Since both contained a Gnostic core belief, they were not altogether foreign to the theological ideas of many transplanted Puritans. Large factions of the American Puritans could easily be classed as Gnostics. Some early Puritan settlers even came up with a version of Israelism and believed that Native Americans were among the lost tribes of Israel. You know that as the Mormon Church, or the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. And again, folks, I don't care what religion you belong to. That's up to you, as long as you belong to it in the truth. As long as you know the truth and you choose to still believe it anyway, I'll fight and die for your right to worship at that altar. It only becomes bad when you, in believing your religion, try to foist your religion on the rest of us. Make us conform to your worldview. Try to make everyone who believes in liberty and freedom eat and drink and think and live and sleep and bow down to whoever you bow down to. That's wrong. And I don't care what religion it is that you belong to. I'm talking to everybody listening to this broadcast. Everybody. Live your life. Believe what you wish. Worship at whatever altar you wish. I will support that even unto death. I will not support your attempting to take away my liberties and freedom to invoke whatever your particular religion or belief believes should be my government or my life. That I will oppose also unto death. The idea that there was the remnant of the lost tribes of Israel in America was sufficiently widespread that it had to be attacked by Cotton Mather, the Puritan humanist. Right or wrong, this is the history of it. The continued effect of Puritan forms of Gnosticism and its use by Britain can be seen in the work of Jonathan Edwards, who started the first big wave of revivalism in the first half of the 18th century. After studying Locke's psychological doctrines, Edwards came up with his own theory of religious affections. The realization that rhetorically conjuring up horrific images of hellfire might have a dramatic effect on susceptible minds, his famous sermon, "Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God," with images of the sinner's soul as a tiny spider held by a thread over a pit of everlasting torture, created a preaching format still used today. But all of that emerged from a well-known classic known as Dante's Inferno. Edward's Great Awakening succeeded in creating mass hysteria in large parts of the Northeast, coming into direct conflict with American leaders like Benjamin Franklin and other followers of Cotton Mather, who wanted to fire up the population to build a nation. Edward's son-in-law was Aaron Burr, the murderer of Alexander Hamilton, who presided over the American chapter of the British Hellfire Club, the secret society devoted to the philosophy of Bernard de Mandeville, who argued against any interference by the state in private vices, no matter how satanic. And that is the identifying mark of an Illuminist. It was Burr who saw that Edwards was made president of the House of Orange's Princeton University. Now, folks, neither Darbyism nor Israelism were very popular in themselves in America through the 19th century, although the British attempted unsuccessfully to capitalize on biblical prophecies about Russia, known as the evil Gog, to undermine Abraham Lincoln's Civil War alliance with Russia. Many of you know nothing about that. At the turn of the 20th century, coinciding with the British efforts to bring America into a strategic alliance, both premillennial dispensationalism and British Israelism began to expand. Most of you don't understand that England sided with the South during the Civil War, hoping to split the United States of America in half so that England could eventually reconquer this continent. Britain supplied a constant stream of preachers for United States prophecy conferences, whose message was that the secrets of the Scripture were being decoded and were coming to pass, that wars and rumors of wars portended the Jewish return, the tribulation, and the rapture. The Darbyite theories were assembled in a series of pamphlets, several edited in England, called The Fundamentals, a testimony of truth. Far from it. These pamphlets, which included the statement that although man was originally made in the image of God, he had lost that honor by Adam's sin, circulated in the millions in the United States. Indeed, the reason why many Protestant evangelicals and apocalyptics are called fundamentalists is that they adhered to the fundamentals described in these pamphlets. Meanwhile, British Israelism grew. The first American organization based on the writings of Edward Hines, the reigning British Israelite, was the 1879 Lost Israel Identification Society of Brooklyn, created by Joseph Wilde, the pastor of Brooklyn's Union Congregationalist Church. In 1883, C.A.L. Totten, who was a United States Army officer, wrote, "Palestine regained are the relation of our race to the race of Israel, the means toward the end." That writing was based on the work of Hine, who toured the Northeast for 4 years, starting in 1884. And a clue to its agenda is the end sentence of the subtitle, "The Means Toward the End." There were two American delegates to the 1919 founding of the BIWF in London, namely J.H. Allen and Portland, Oregon pastor Reuben Sawyer. The latter was a Darbyite who came to incorporate British Israel into his views. Sawyer was replaced as the United States representative to the BIWF by Howard Rand, a lawyer who ran for Attorney General of Massachusetts on the Prohibition Party ticket. In 1930, Rand founded the BIWF-affiliated Anglo-Saxon Federation of America, which soon had chapters all across the United States. There has been an intermingling of British Israelism with major Protestant evangelical denominations ever since that time. For example, Garner Ted Armstrong, the founder of the Worldwide Church of Christ, preached that the Anglo-Saxon Celtic race was the true Israelites, and that the British sovereign was descended from King David. Upon his death, his church split between adherents of British Israelism and those who believed in, quote, the rapture, end quote. Likewise, Billy Graham, who founded the Evangelistic Association, got his first training from a British Israelite named Mordecai Ham. Graham rose to prominence after his revival meetings in Britain, where he became associated with such British Israelite influence notables as Lord Home of the Hersal. Graham's writings were published by the leading BIWF geopolitician Kenneth Hugh DeCourcy in his publication Religious Review. Although Graham seeks to keep it hidden, some of his closest advisors practice Kabbalistic biblical prophecy from the signs of the time. Another offshoot of British Israelism that has permeated the United States, posing a significant national security problem, and that is no exaggeration, is the Identity Church. It agrees that the Anglo-Saxon Celtic race is the true Israelites, but differs from the BIWF by proclaiming the Jews to be descended from Eve's mating with the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Identity has significant influence within a number of paramilitary groups and in the militias. Some few militias, ladies and gentlemen. Don't denigrate or condemn the militias, for only a very few are affected by this cancer. And you can tell exactly which ones they are. They'll tell you that you can't be a true American or belong to the militia unless you are a Christian, and specifically Christian identity person. So they're not hard to pinpoint. That makes them not militias, but religious armies. The true militia, ladies and gentlemen, is defined in the law of every state and of the United States of America. There are an awful lot of so-called patriots, however, who are Christian identity British Israelite. These people also believe that Hitler was right, and that Hitler's Third Reich was the promise and should have been allowed to come about. Hitler's one of their big heroes, and they include the Aryan race, as does the modern British Israelite movement anyway, and in England, even after having said that they were not part of the original 10 tribes of Israel, but were the Assyrian enemies of the tribes of Israel, and now they are once again of the tribes of Israel. You see, it's all convenient. Too convenient. This Christian identity also has significant influence, ladies and gentlemen, with factions within the United States intelligence community, the Central Intelligence Agency, and military units such as the Special Forces, one famous member of which was Lieutenant Colonel James Bo Gritz, who is one of the biggest Trojan horses that exist in this country today. This influence of British Israel upon paramilitary and patriot organizations in the United States is long-standing. William Pelly, who founded the Silver Shirts in imitation of the Nazi Sturmabteilung, or SA, in the 1930s, was one such case. Others include Reverend Gerald L.K. Smith, who created the American Destiny Foundation and then formed the paramilitary California Anti-Communist League. Reverend Wesley Smith, who founded two paramilitary groups, the California Rangers and the Christian Defense League. Lieutenant Colonel William Potter Gale, retired, who first worked with Swift's Defense League, then broke off to found the Posse Comitatus, and so forth. And that brings us to Kenneth Hugh DeCourcy. Mr. DeCourcy